Hello, I'm Leanna Cote, and this is a first in a series of small workshops on assessment and evaluation. And today we're going to start our first workshop with anecdotal notes. Now, what are anecdotal notes? Well, they're just notes that record your observations of a student, and you're looking at their behaviors, their skills, their attitudes related to an expectation or an outcome in the course. And they should be based on specific outcomes. So, not just general notes, but notes about what the student is currently doing and learning. And they should be fairly brief. Now, why do we do anecdotal notes? Well, they provide information on student learning, and then they also give us direction about where we're going in the future with instruction. So, they help us to plan our future instruction. And when are they taken? Well, they're taken usually during or right after what you're observing. So, part of ongoing observations as students are working, taking notes, perhaps you gave a lesson and you want to make notes about the questions students were answering. Perhaps they're doing group work. And so they should be done either during or if that is not convenient, and sometimes it's not, then immediately after those activities. So, the purpose of anecdotal notes, there are really four reasons that we take anecdotal notes as part of our assessment and evaluation. So, they give us or help us to paint a picture of the student's development of their learning over time. They provide ongoing records about each student and their instructional needs. They capture observations and significant behaviors. And sometimes these are lost or forgotten over a semester. So they capture little snapshots of how a student is learning and their behaviors and their understanding through time. And then they provide ongoing documentation of learning, and they can be shared with students, with parents, with teachers, or only used for your own use to inform your education going forward. So, how do you structure your anecdotal notes? Well, there are some questions you should ask yourself, and then there are some examples that follow that might help give you some suggestions. So, for your own ease, do you want all students on one page? Or do you want one page for each student? Do you want to use coding or a color system to help make it easier for you? Which expectation or outcome will you be targeting, and how will you record that? Will you use longer written notes? So do you want to use something that's quick, or do you want to write down a few sentences? Do you want more than one expectation on each page? So you might have a page for one expectation, but you could have a page that has all of the overall expectations and then add specifics in your notes. Do you want to use paper or sticky notes or a Google form or a doc? Do you want to use audio or video, which is possible because you can record very quickly on your phone and save those to a Google Drive? So here are some examples of what they might look like, and you can use these, adapt these, or use something entirely different. So paper anecdotal notes have the advantage of being easy and immediate, because if you have an iPad in your classroom and you have a pen, you can make those notes as you walk around if you want to do them digitally. But that might not be available for all teachers. So a clipboard and some paper notes might be the quickest way to take regular anecdotal notes. Here's an example of using sticky notes to write down your anecdotal notes. I'm going to say that for me, I found sticky notes very convenient, but then I had to be very careful I didn't lose them. So a setup like this where they go on a page where perhaps the expectations you want are along the side might be the way to go. You could also use a binder with sticky notes on top of a page protector. Again, for me, I was likely to lose these, so I might put them on a page and then put them inside the page protector. You might choose to use little note cards with the expectations or students' names and then keep them in a little note card box. You could also make some charts and create some anecdotal notes using those charts. And I've included a couple of examples of how those might look, some with color coding, some with little dots, some with written explanations. You can even use smiley faces and frowny faces. You can also make some longer notes, and both of these are linked in the document that accompanies this video. You could go ahead and print out your seating plan from Markbook, and that might be a good way for you to keep track of things. It's readily accessible, and it doesn't take you a whole lot of work, especially if you put the students' names in Markbook and then choose to have these different lines or check boxes. And at the top, you can add the expectations you're looking for. Now, digital notes have the advantage of being permanent and very organized. And so you might choose to go that route. I have in the past used a Google form where at the end of class or while students are working, I'll sit down for a few minutes and record some anecdotal notes. And I have a copy of that Google form that I'd be happy to share with you. You can also record your notes in Markbook for each student. And then you might have a chart and you can add them to the chart while you're sitting at your computer, or use a tablet to do so. You might also use paper notes and then transcribe them into something like a chart where you then take the notes that you've done quickly and put them into a form that might be a little bit more readable for you. And that is what I'm calling a hybrid anecdotal notes. They're useful if you're being evaluated and you want your notes to look nice. So you're in that cycle where your principal comes in to see your work. It could be for a class where you feel that you want to document a lot of observation and conversation. And so these anecdotal notes can help support that. They could be for a class that you find challenging and you know that you're going to have to paint a very complete picture of your students. So you might want to take your written anecdotal notes and during your prep in a day or at the end of the week, you might want to type those out in some way. So it's not really how you record the notes. It's using whatever form you feel comfortable with. What's more important is that you do make some notes in this way. I started making anecdotal notes in my lesson planning book when I used that old red book that we used to get from our main office. And then I would flag them or transcribe them. And then I sort of moved towards, in the end, really using a Google form to use a lot less paper. So it doesn't matter as long as you're choosing the expectations that you are going to assess and that you're recording them quickly so that they are still in your memory, and then you're organizing them in whatever way is useful for you. There are resources in here that you might be interested in looking at. I will make those available to you. I can be reached at Leanna Cote at WEC-DSB. There's also an accompanying document that will go along with this that basically goes through this in PDF form. And that also includes some references, and you can follow those references if you're interested. So this scan QR code will take you to the supporting document. It's also available on the website with these little snippets of assessment and evaluation, and you are welcome to email me anytime. Thank you very much, and I hope this is helpful.